Hey guys, what's up? It is week 215. I got a little mustache in honor of all the people in these movies this week that have freaking mustaches. First, we're going to go over the Years of Lead, which has Merle in it, Maurizio Merle, who's a Polizio Tetzi Euro kind of crime actor. Although in his movie, he doesn't have a mustache. But we also have, the main character in No, the Case is Happily Resolved has a little mustache. Kind of similar to this, just a little bit more upkept. Count Christopher Lee as Count Dracula also has a awesome mustache. The only time he donned, I think, a mustache as Dracula. He never had one in the Hammer films, if I'm not mistaken. And finally, of course, Bronson, the one based on The Criminal. Also, Charles Bronson, the actor, had a mustache as well. No Bronson acting movies in here. Just the kind of weird biopic, semi-biopic by Nicholas Refn, Winding Refn, Bronson. So I guess we're gonna hop into this and start with this box set from Arrow Video called The Years of Lead. And I love when Arrow does this. They'll take kind of like a subject, like American Horror Project, and they'll have somebody put all these movies in a box set. This is a really unique kind of set, to be honest. It's 5 Eurocrime or Polizio Tetzi films, all made during the heyday. But in the 70s, although America had their whole vigilante kind of crime thing going on too, with the nitty-gritty stuff and all that, Italy also had, I know, like, you have a lot of those New York movies where it's just like crime everywhere in all the streets and everything like that, and you have the vigilantes popping out like Death Wish and Vigilante and hundreds of other movies. But in Italy, I guess in this time, I think they said it started in the late 60s and ended in the late 80s, was this ridiculously violent political turmoil that was happening, where you had extremists from the right and left just kind of causing all this damage and murders and bombings, and even the freaking prime minister or president, whoever was in charge, was actually kidnapped by one of these groups and executed. After being held for like 50 days. I actually kind of went down a slight rabbit hole, which I wish I would have got to go deep down in, because it's like you're thinking all these different countries have their own politics, and it's very complicated in your country as well, like when you think about it, and then like you're like, just to dive deeper in somebody else's politics, you're like, this is even more insane than half the politics here. But they kind of had all these like groups that they were like left or right, and I started going down, and there was like the Red Brigades, and there was so much information and history, and it just is kind of really great to know a little bit about that to watch these movies. And I have seen a handful of Polizio Tetzi movies. I'm saying that wrong, I know, but that's the best you're going to get. Or Eurocrime films. I've seen, Ennio Castellari movies. The High Crime, I think, is the one with Franco Nero. And, of course, I've seen Revolver with Oliver Reed and Fernando Del Leo, a bunch of his films, and Almost Human by Umberto Lenzi, Armed to the Teeth by Umberto Lenzi. So I've seen a decent amount of these. All 5 of these in this set were first-time watches. So, and before anybody, I would highly recommend this set as a whole. It also has a little bit of a booklet in there as well with Cliff Notes, and Troy Howarth's in there. I started reading some of that, and he starts going over the history of the director of the movie. No, the Case is Happily Resolved. But, okay, so that was the big movie that I had heard of in the set. No, the Case is Happily Resolved. And it has a lot of I would say fanfare, and it's kind of unique and different from my understanding. The Savage 3 was also one that I had heard about before because it stars Joe D'Alessandro. So saying that, let's start with The Savage 3, which is the first one in the set. And I believe this is the same director who did No, the Case is Happily Resolved. I think he did both of those. But The Savage 3 stars Joe D'Alessandro, who is not an Italian actor. He was kind of one of these guys who went over to Italy to become kind of a star, and he cut his teeth on acting in Italy. If you guys know Joe, or they call him Little Joe, from the song the Velvet Underground song, he was kind of made famous or got his start in the Andy Warhol scene. He was in stuff like, Trash, Heat, Flesh, those kind of movies by Paul Morrissey, and he eventually made the move to Italy, where he was in Blood for Dracula, Flesh for Frankenstein, and a slew of these Polizio Testis. He's also in an Arrow film that they put out called The Climber, which is a pretty cool movie. But okay, this is different. This is obviously making a political statement here. In this one, we have these 3 kind of guys that work in an office. They're always being pushed on by, the man, the boss, and everything like that. And they seem decent. They seem like they have a decent life. They seem very, working class, but decent people in society. and it turns out that they have, a thrill for crime. Joe is the leader. He's taken these three guys. They all have different backgrounds too, and that stuff that's kind of eating at their lives, their home lives and their work lives and all that kind of stuff. And we get glimpses of that, of course. So we kind of see them causing this huge like soccer riot, and that's shown in the very beginning as Joe is witnessing these rats do this. They're perfectly fine when they're confined and have enough room for themselves, but when you throw them all together, shit happens, and they kind of lash out. And that's a big, obviously, kind of metaphor right in the beginning that these like when there's enough room and everybody's fine, but when something goes wrong and everybody's crowded, it just kind of becomes chaos, and that plays into this movie for sure. But anyways, through their kind of like crime spree, they're kind of trying to stay on the down low and everything like that. And something happens where a murder happens, like an accident. I wouldn't say accidental because they pretty much did, but it's this violent act and somebody's killed. That's like an incident for them, like a what is that, triggering incident for these three. And led by Joe, they start this horribly violent crime spree. There's a detective, of course, on their case who actually has a connection with Joe. He kind of likes to go to his workplace and try to get him to run the numbers for him and everything like that because he's a big gambler. But the cop's a little bit more clever than that. And I don't want to spoil too much on the plot any more than I already have. But this one is in Italian only. There is no English dub for this one. And there's this like kind of like, it feels like an American rock song playing, and it seems very familiar. It's probably a band that I would know, or a band that a lot of people would know. And it just blares throughout the whole movie. It's kind of like their theme music. It's really awesome. I was actually taken back how violent this was. Because I've seen a few of these, and I'm like, yeah, they're very action packed, and there's some really exciting stuff in here and car chases. But the actual brutal violence in here was like, oh shit. Savage 3. No shit, Savage 3. There's somebody killed with the forklift. But after like they have that initial incident of somebody being killed, they just turn to monsters. This is a really solid movie. Really recommended. There is some features on here. A lot of the stuff has been ported over from the oh geez, what was the label that put these out? Obscura, Camera Obscura. Let me get the features on here so I don't make a mistake. The only bad thing I will say about, like, if you watch a bunch of Polizio Tetsis from a box set is like Giallo or something like that. They have a lot of same themes and actors and stuff, so they'll bleed together. So I'm going to try to keep them a little bit more separate for you guys. So let me see the special features on this bad boy. There's so much stuff in here that I'm going through. Okay, so they're not in order, apparently. So we have Rat Eat Rat, an interview with the writer-director Vittorio Salnarno, and actress Martine Brocard on Savage 3, the Savage one, an interview with actor Joe D'Alessandro. I love that. He goes over his whole career, and he doesn't hold back. You can tell this guy's not holding back. He talks about how, Paul Morrissey didn't seem like exactly the nice guy. He's like, kind of pissed me off a lot. Talks about, the stunts not being exactly safe, and he was kind of start to refuse to do explosions because it was no longer safe. He's getting burned, all that kind of stuff. So that was a nice little story on there. And there's also, what else is on there? It looks like that's it for Savage 3. I would really recommend this one. This was probably my favorite or second favorite in the set. Although it's a personal preference on the stuff like that, but I do think it's also one of the better made movies. Maybe not. I don't know. They're all really good in their own way. So yeah, that is the Savage 3. Okay, so the next one in the Years of Lead box set is Like Rabid Dogs, not to be confused with the Mario Bava movie Rabid Dogs, or Kidnapped, or whatever the alternate name is, but Like Rabid Dogs. Okay, so here we go. This one, it has some very similar, it has a lot of similarities to Savage 3, but it has its own unique twist kind of too. I think that the cop is a little bit more proactive and more, kind of focused a bit on this one. So instead of, middle class or working class people lashing out against, society in general, almost seemingly like in a way that's just like violence, or just kind of going nuts. This one, the killer has a group of three, I guess it's killers, but really we only know much about a little bit about the main guy. We know his story, and he is a rich kid that resents his father's riches, resents his father's friends, but he's also a sadist. So I think so. I mean, he's very brutal and very horrible. So him and his friends a guy and a girl, they go around and they rob and they cheat and they steal. A lot of it is focused on his father and everything like that. And it's up to a police detective who's very working class and his hands are tied. We have that kind of deal. You know, the laws against, they'll be out in the streets, that kind of deal. He kind of is trying to figure this out and stop them from committing the violence. Even though he knows exactly who it is, he just has to find the evidence or catch him in the act. So this one, again, some really brutal stuff. In the very beginning, we have a suicide because a woman has lost her husband. We have them, just the three of them are just absolutely horrible. And there's a couple parts when I said, oh shit. I literally said, oh shit, when people get shot, big squibs coming out their back. Surprised certain characters died at the points. I was actually terrified for a character that the cop uses, that he has like a relationship with. He kind of uses her to his advantage to kind of lay low as a prostitute or kind of go undercover as a prostitute to get these guys' attention. And there were scenes during that where I was like very, very my nerves were wrecked during it. I was like, oh no, 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 no. And a lot of the prostitute stuff and a lot of it Euro horror in general, or not Euro horror, Euro, this isn't horror, but Euro films in general from this time period, like their prostitution is so much different than Americans in movies. Like you'll see like American prostitutes in movies on the street corner under a street light and all that. In like Italy and even France and all these countries, you always see them on like a darkly lit country road. It's not even lit really, it's a country road, maybe a barrel with some fire, and all the prostitutes are just kind of standing around there, and it's like the same location in all these movies. Some of it reminded me of Brigade of Death, the French film, which is an excellent movie, going to get released by Mrparka, I think this year possibly. I'm not sure if the wide release is coming out, but it's a great movie, and all that kind of stuff. And I remember like every prostitute movie here is that. So like there's just some really mean-spirited and brutal stuff that's just unpleasant as hell. And I like the cop in some ways, how he resents even the people that are trying to attack the rich people because they don't really, he doesn't care because the people are doing is trash and it's for a bullshit reason, and they'll never truly understand anyways what it's like to not be privileged and rich and shit like that. But it's just a complex thing going on. But he's also a horrible idiot. Like he just puts other people's life at risk, and he's just not a super smart guy. But anyways, the very ending of this movie is a knockout. It's got a real great ending involving a mob, which I thought was genius and worked perfectly for this character. Just desserts, man. Just desserts. So on here we have... Okay, rat interview. Sorry, it's kind of hard to figure out where. If you look at the back of all this, it's all just a big blob of text. I should have been a little bit more prepared for this, but okay. So we have. Okay, when a murderer dies, an interview with cinematographer Romano Albini and film historian Fabio Meliti, I'm terrible with names, on Like Rabid Dogs. It's Not a Time for Tears, an interview with assistant director Claudio Bernabe on Like Rabid Dogs. Music sampler for Like Rabid Dogs. And then we have, that's for the other one. But yeah, so again, there's some other features on here. They're all ported over, but they're rare. They're fairly new, within the last 5 or 6 years. So yeah, Like Rabid Dogs, also one of my favorites from the set. Maybe my second favorite or first. It's right up there at the top. Like I was just taken back. Like we had that 1-2 punch. I watched them in order of the set. I watched Savage 3, then Like Rabid Dogs, and my jaw was on the ground. I was like, man, these two I've never really heard. I've heard Savage 3 in passing, but I've seen, like I said, I've seen a lot of Polizia Tetsi, and these two were never really brought up that much. So these pack a punch. Both very good. Okay, this next one here is Colt 38 Special Squad. This one is a little bit different. This one is like, instead of focusing on like young youth, that's like a double, the youth kind of going out and causing this horrible like violence and everything like that, we're a little bit more focused on actually a police officer and a special squad he creates to kind of, stop these criminals. And the lead criminal is Ivan Rasimov. The guy who leads the special squad is a French actor, I believe, and he's in stuff like Robert Altman's Images. He's the kind of expired lover that's popping up. Is he a ghost or not? I'm not sure. He's also in Chino with Charles Bronson, where he plays the baddie in that movie. So he's a familiar face for me. He is the heroic type, question mark, in this one. So essentially, what we have here is this really awesome, amazing shootout in the very beginning where these couple baddies are captured, one of which is the nutso guy from Hell of the Living Dead. You gotta shoot him in the head. That guy, the crazy guy in Hell of the Living Dead. If you don't know who he is, I'm sorry. I don't know what to tell you. So he captures in this big shootout, end up capturing a couple baddies, and this guy is hyper focused on catching these bad guys. It's very hard. They have a lot of power, and pretty soon enough, after the special squad is kind of hitting the streets using special guns with special bullets they're not supposed to. There's four of them, and the criminals start to use bombs. They start to plant these bombs all around the city, and the stakes get really high. This movie has these moments where after a bomb goes off, they take the time to kind of like zoom in and go around the area, and they linger on the after effects where there's just like bodies strewn in the streets, and some are dummies and some are real. So like there'd be like all the bodies are twisted, so you'll have like they do it on purpose, obviously, so like be like a fake head that's kind of out of view, and it just is it's very effective. Even though I know I saw the same fake head a couple of times, it doesn't really bother me, I guess, but that kind of stuff really kind of put it in place, especially if there was a lot of terrorist acts going around in Italy at this time. This really had to kind of hit home with people, and just it was kind of bothersome, to be honest, the after effects of watching a whole place get blown up. That stuff in movies is just scary in general now, because it's very much a fact of life, where there's just bombs going off in certain places. Although I've never had to witness that, thankfully, but I know that it is a little bit more common now than it was when I was very little, even in the United States. But maybe not, I don't know. But it does happen, I know. So after like seeing all these bodies strewed up and everything like that, I thought that was really effective. The bad guy, like I said, is Ivan Rasimov. He's solid in it. And this movie packs a punch in the very beginning. The very beginning is very solid, very entertaining. I was very happy with it. And then there's a little lull, just a little bit in the middle, but it picks up at the end, and there's an amazing stunt involving a train and a car that my jaw hit the ground again. I was like, oh my god, I can't believe they're doing it. And they started zooming out on it, and I was like, is that what's happening here? Am I reading that right? I was like, that is what's happening here. That's freaking awesome. But yeah, this one, I like this one as well. It's probably tied with third place, or maybe the one of the movies would be the best, but there's something about it that just rubbed me a little. It's the most important, I would say, most definitely. But this one is not. I'm not talking about this one as the most important, but I did really like this one as well. It was very entertaining, violent, and yeah, there's stakes too. Like some of the good guys actually get killed. There's one part that made me laugh out loud where they kill one of the criminals, and there's a shot of him like hiding behind a pillar, and he's like looking this way, and then like after he's dead, they're like showing people like witnesses photos of the person, and they literally pull a picture of that still of him leaning against the pillar, but in black and white, 2 seconds before he is killed, from the movie, and they're like, "Have you seen this guy?" I'm like, how the hell would they have that picture as evidence, as his reference photo? What the fuck? But still, it's just like, all right, whatever. But it made me laugh out loud. It's like, you can't just use a still from the movie. You can't use a publicity still from the movie for the guy's reference point as a witness. Okay, but it still made me. I'll let it slide. Anyways, I enjoyed this one. Good action in the very beginning and the very end, and I do like the idea of chasing the bombs, trying to stop it. Reminded me very much of Die Hard with a Vengeance, that came out much later. So what we have here is archival introduction to Colt 38 Special Squad by Stelvino Cipriani. And the music's great in all these movies too. I should admit that. I mean, not admit it, but I should mention that because it's a lot of the big names here, Cipriani, and geez, I know there's some other guys. You guys know the big three. So, and then what else do we have? A tough guy in interview with editor Antonio Siciliano on Cult 38 Special Squad. Hearing me pronounce these names has got to be comedy gold, or very annoying to some people. Always the same, old 7 notes, an interview with composer Cipriani on Cult 38 Special Squad. Yeah, and then of course it has lossless audio. I should mention that I think that the first 3 in the set are all in Italian with no optional English dub. This one might. It's kind of tough to remember all these. I know that like the Savage 3 and like Rabid Dogs is only in Italian. There's actually no subtitles on here. I mean, there are subtitles. Geez, I'm kind of ranting off. There's no English dub. When I only mention this because I'm so used to watching my Italian films in English dub, especially the older ones, just because I always felt like, the actors come from their countries, they speak their native language on set, and they dub it over in post anyways. Why not watch it in English? Because the actors that I know that are going to be matching up best would be from English, would be speaking English on set. And sometimes they dub their own voices, other times they don't. it just, I know, it is what it is. It's going to be dubbed anyways. Might as well watch it in English. Yeah, this one is enjoyable. It is good. Yeah, so check it out. Okay, the next one from the Years of Lead set is Highway Racer, starring Maurizio Merli. And this director, what was his name? He's done a bunch of them, and I actually had heard briefly of Highway Racer too, but I never watched it. Maurizio Merli, he was an actor that popped up in a bunch of these Poliziottessi. He was kind of one of the faces of it. He was hired because he looked a lot like Franco Nero. He was the Franco Nero type, and Nero had done a couple of these, so he kind of was in those after that. There's actually a nice little featurette on here that talks about that a little bit, talks about this movie and everything like that. So this one is more lighthearted. It's a bit different, and that's what's cool about this set as well. They kind of wanted to show you the range of the genre, not just the real brutal stuff, not just the stuff that critics would call fascist. They're showing you a little bit of everything, so it feels like you have different kind of terrorist groups and different kinds of criminals and all that kind of stuff, which is nice. So Highway Racer, this one's a bit different. Merle is a cop, and there's like I guess like group of drivers. I don't like highway chaser cop or whatever. They chase bank robbers and stuff. It seems like some unit, small, really detailed unit or something specific. So I don't know what the hell's going on with that. Anyways, Merle, he's basically in the very beginning. He tries to catch. He's a good driver, but he's not the best. Him and his partner try to catch these super fast criminals that are robbing a bank. He has no success. He actually gets in an accident. And that's kind of his MO. He's kind of reckless, gets in accidents, never can, catch these guys. And his partner's always complaining. He's like the comedic relief. He's always complaining about being scared to die and everything like that. And the chief's always on Merle that he's not good enough and he should just give up and everything. And it's a real weird relationship they have, with the chief and Merle and all these other criminals. The criminals have this kind of, the criminals and cops have this code amongst each other where there's like a weird respect. And the main criminal is him and his gang. The main criminal's kind of forcing them to like kind of respect because he has a history with the chief. So there's like this back and forth kind of like almost like, I don't want to say pulpy kind of aspect to it where it's almost like James Bond kind of stuff where they're like, yes, I know exactly the game and we're going to play it fair and everything like that, even if, you're a criminal anyways. But there's some really good chases in here, cars going down steps, all that kind of crazy stuff, cars turning on their side where it almost becomes cartoonish. It's not as violent as the other ones. Nobody actually is like shot to death, although somebody's body gets hit with a car and there's no way that person's alive. That one made me actually terrified for the stuntman. Usually in a lot of these movies you'll spot the dummy 10 miles away in an Italian movie. They're very famous for dummy deaths. But in this one somebody is hit and it looked like they sped up the camera or sped up the footage, but it still looked very fast and I was like, oh, that guy's messed up. That guy's hurting, man. So there's that. But the ending, it sets it up brilliantly, the final race and all that kind of stuff. Marilee's character in this is a miserable asshole. He acts like a 12-year-old kid. He's just so like entitled and just he gets somebody killed and it's really uneven when that happens because it's like a certain character that you're just like, oh, I just feel really awful about this. And that's the intent, but it just almost seems a little bit weird. This one's probably my least favorite of the bunch. Maybe it didn't hit as hard or maybe it just wasn't as interesting to me or maybe I just needed to see more shooting, but it is enjoyable. And of course he goes undercover and infiltrates the gang from the inside because they're impossible to catch otherwise. But there's a lot of car stuff going on, car talk and all that, and he's good in it. But he's just kind of a dickhead at the same time, which I guess you'd have to be kind of a dickhead to want to have that job in a way. But so what do they have as special features are on the Highway Racer? So this one was in English. You could watch it in English or Italian. So we have Faster Than a Bullet, an interview with film historian Roberto Curti on Highway Racer, which I thought was really great. That's where he kind of breaks down the career of Merle a little bit and this movie and compares it to other ones. I thought that was very interesting. That's about 20 minutes long. So, yeah. All right. Coming to the final film of the Years of Lead box set is No, the Case is Happily Resolved. And this one I had heard about. It's like I said, it had kind of a comparison, and I had heard it brought up in the same kind of breath as a citizen above suspicion, or an investigation of a citizen above suspicion. Sorry, that's a mouthful of a title, but yeah, that kind of one that came out a couple years, I think before it at least. That one's a really great film about a police corruption and everything, and a cop who's just breaking the law and trying to be caught, or somewhat. It's just an insane movie. I think I covered it on here. So this one, No, the Case is Happily Resolved. This is a really good movie, and it really points out a lot of excellent stuff here. So what we have is this kind of working class guy. One day he's fishing and he overhears this woman screaming, and he goes to check it out, and what he witnesses is a very brutal, awful murder of an older man beating a woman in a field with a club. So they spot each other after it's done, and they look directly at each other. He runs away. He drives through these country roads trying to find the police, trying to find help, but to no avail. It just seems that every time he tries to do something, something gets in his way. The guy's following him. He decides not to report it. He decides he can't talk to his wife. He's having all these problems, and he's just not that intelligent of a guy, really. He's kind of a screw up. He's just very nervous. He's naive. I'll say he's not dumb, but he's naive. He's very naive to the situation. And honestly, it points out a thing about human beings that's very true. They don't want to get involved. They don't want to ruin their day. They don't want to have to go in and just tell all the cops and have to go in every week. And they don't want to do, I guess, their duty, as this movie would call it, and report it to the police. So quick enough, the actual killer, knowing a little bit about the guy who spotted him and everything like that, decides to go in after and report it to the police and say that he witnessed a murder, gives a description of the witness of the murder, and says he did it. So it gets really complicated. So the newspapers start running the story. He remains anonymous. It shows pictures of him, what kind of car he drove, and it just starts eating away at his life and driving him absolutely crazy. That's a great bit with the mustache, because he has a mustache where he's having him take it off. Paint job, all sorts of things. He becomes obsessed. His life completely falls apart, and you really are not sure what is going to happen. The whole movie points to one ending, and you're like, it's perfect to end that way, and it's the way the movie's been building for, and its message would really come across properly. And they tack on a shit ending on it. That's just... And I would compare it to Who Saw Her Die, which is a great movie, but at the very end, they have this really dumb scene that's just kind of wusses out. And No, the Case is Happily Resolved is the same deal, unfortunately. Still a great film. Still brings up a lot of great questions. And really, if I witness a murder, I'm going to the police right away. Or at least calling anonymously and letting them know what I saw and how the person looked and everything like that. I will never let this happen to me, okay? Because... but though, again, like I said, it's not that far-fetched for somebody to witness something awful and not want to get involved, because you're questioned, you miss work, you become somebody that the newspaper or the media is going to be focused on. It's just... people just want to go about their day and their lives, even if they witness something horrible. But it just gets complicated, especially when the witness starts to look into the criminal himself, and they have a face-to-face, and the media, newspapers get involved. Actually, the journalist guy is the lead detective in The Savage 3 as well, which is the same director. So, yeah, it's just a really interesting movie. There is an alternative ending, too. They actually put the alternative ending on there, which is the perfect amount of question mark on this one. It leaves a little bit of hope, but it doesn't completely show you the other way. I think that the original ending was actually great, and I think if they kept that ending, this movie would have been the best movie in the set. The score sticks in your head. It was very memorable. I don't know exactly how to explain it, so I'll probably just try to play it through this. But it's just a great score. It's very, I don't want to say repetitive, but it repeats a lot, and it gets stuck in your head. But this is a very good film. It's very well acted, and it just works really well until the ending, of course, which is unfortunate. But great set all around. So what do we have? We have Mother Justice, an interview with writer-director Vittorio Salvernaro on No, the Case is Happily Resolved. Alternate ending to No, the Case is Happily Resolved. Original trailers for... okay, so yep, that's what we got here. But there was also limited edition collector's booklet in here featuring new writings on the films by Troy Howarth, Michael McKenzie, Rachel Nisbet, Kat Ellinger, and James Oliver. There's two of my favorites in there, and Troy Howarth and Kat Ellinger, both awesome. So yeah, this set is great. I would highly recommend picking this set up. Like I said, I like when they do these sets that aren't like a series or anything like that. They take like curated movies and somebody picks this set, like picks 5 of these Poliziottestis and tells a story, because it tells a story about film history and cinema and everything like that. And this set does that. So a highly recommended set. All of them look great and sounded great. I think they're all in LPCMC. So no like 5.1. That's probably the original sound mix they were in. Anyways, great freaking set. Highly recommended. Yeah, it's just, you got to see it. If you like Poliziottestis or you like European films or you're interested in what I just said, take a dip in there. This is a good set to get you started, I think, to get you a wide kind of variety of what you would see in this genre. But remember that there is some brutal stuff. So this ain't your typical, American action film, although it's kind of your typical American drama action film from the 70s. Kind of has some similarities for sure. But yeah, this is great stuff. Okay, this next one here is from Well Go USA, and this is The Paper Tigers. This is a martial arts film. Didn't know much about it. I like what Well Go does, and this is a PG-13 martial arts film, and it was kind of nice to see something a little lighthearted after years of lead, although it's not like, completely PG or not without action or substance or anything like that. Not saying that PG-13 movies are lack of substance or anything like that, but, okay, Paper Tigers. This follows a story of this group that were the 3 tigers. They had Sifu, which was their master. Basically, he taught them everything. We see this whole life of them. We actually see Sifu murdered in the very beginning by somebody in shadows, this old man. And when we realize that he was the master of these 3 young men through this videotape, like they go through time, and when they're 12 all the way up into modern present day. And then we realize that they have separated, they've gone about their lives, and we kind of follow the one character who's obviously struggling with his son. His wife and him are divorced, or they're not together anymore, and he's just not a good father. It's very typical, stereotypical. I'm not a great father because I don't have much time, and I'm just teaching my kid lessons, and I'm not who I used to be, and all this kind of stuff there. So he's completely different, and his friend Hing from 25 years ago shows up and tells him that Sifu is dead. Of course, these 3 had some problems that broke them up, and we kind of learn history throughout the movie. But of course, the 3 tigers have to get together and kind of discover what happened to their beloved master. They have some help from some people in the past, and of course they figure out what happened, and they're going to have have a final showdown to honor their friends and honor their Sifu and all that kind of stuff. So yeah, the thing is, the characters are really fun in here. The back and forth actually had me laughing quite a bit, especially the insults. There's one of the guys who put on some weight, obviously. He's got a bad knee. There's one of the guy who lost a lot of weight. So there's these stupid little immature jokes going back and forth that it shows their characters for sure, which is funny to me where they're getting in a fight with a group of kids, and one guy says, "It looks like this guy ate half of this guy," and it's just like, just my high school mentality sometimes has had me laughing about it. I don't know. Maybe it's, I work in a bad work environment, but that kind of cracking on people stuff just makes me laugh, even though it's inappropriate. But yeah, so of course it gets dramatic, and you get attached to the characters because they're making you laugh throughout, and they have this back and forth. My favorite part of the whole movie was there was a character that you saw in the flashbacks that they set up that they always kind of picked on in the karate environment, or it's not karate, sorry, it's gung fu, that they picked on and fought a lot, and they always beat him up. And now this guy has like moved on, and he's like running his own kind of, he's like a Sifu or master himself, and not necessarily a master, but he's right under a master. And he's really good, and he's really big, and he's still a little sour and bitter about what happened. So the jokes and back and forth between all of them is absolutely hilarious. I love that stuff. It was a great rivalry in here, but you could still tell that they're on the same side. That stuff was very funny. I enjoyed the fights in here. They're not anything like you'll see in the crazy Shaw Brothers stuff where you're just like, I can't believe these people are doing this in a wide and there's no cuts and it's just insane. It's not anything on that caliber or like, I would say as good as Jet Li or Jackie Chan or something like that, but it's still really good and entertaining. And I'm not the guy to gonna tell you that your fight choreographing is terrible, because what can I do unless it actually is really terrible and very noticeable garbage, like I slap like this and the guy's like, oh, he's like 10 feet away or something like that. You gotta call that out. But no, it's enjoyable, it's fun. I thought that it looked great. As far as the disc was, it played very well. It was very clean looking. The audio was great. There's some nightclub scenes and all that kind of stuff, but it is kind of typical, but it is at the same time lighthearted enough that you could watch it with your family, get them kind of into the martial arts films if you're looking for it. But the three main characters are fun. The side characters are fun. Yeah, there's some obvious lessons in here that all these movies have. Anyways, enjoyable. Paper Tigers, good stuff. Okay, this next one is the Patreon pick, and I can't remember who picked this one. Sorry about that, if it was Tom Broker or geez. But anyways, it is Bronson by Nicholas Winding Refn, and I had seen this once before, and I remember really enjoying it. It's like a biopic starring, geez, I can't believe I forgot his name. How can I forget Tom Hardy's name? I literally just blanked Tom Hardy. I'm getting old. The mustache is affecting my brain. Excuse King. Anyways, Tom Hardy from great stuff like The Revenant and, of course, the Mad Max Fury Road, slew of things. Venom, which I've not watched. Anyways, Bronson is Britain's most violent prisoner. He's a real person. He got his name, obviously, from actor Charles Bronson. He is a fighter. He's been incarcerated most of his freaking adult life, if not most of his life anyways. But this is a strange film. And if you watch the special features, Nicholas Refn basically says, when I was making a prison movie, I wasn't going to do it like a typical prison movie. Instead of making it, masculine, I was going to make it feminine instead of... And he kind of switches all these things around. He's like, I didn't see, Bronson as a violent criminal brawler, and that's like, I see him as like a showman. And like you hear some of his like recordings and everything like that, and he's just like one of these guys that can just twist on a dime. And he's a unique, interesting character. He's never killed anyone to my knowledge, but he's fought a lot, and he likes to fight with the police. And it's a strange structure too. It doesn't go in chronological order. We see a little bit of his childhood, but we see other parts kind of going back and forth, and we see him incarcerated, out of prison here and there. But what I love is, as tough and as mean and as violent as Bronson is, there is this human side to him. And you see that when he has relationships with women, which cause him to lash out at times. We see it when his parents come to pick him up when he's initially released from prison. And I absolutely love that scene, how nervous he is. It's just this great performance by Tom Hardy that is just unique. And although Tom Hardy, a lot of people are like, hey, he always mumbles through his roles. And like, this might have been the start of it, but he's doing a great impression. I mean, I don't want to say impression is an insult, but he's doing a great rendition, I'll say, of the guy who plays Bronson, where he's like, fight, fight. Where'd you get this? Fight. but he's just really, really a great performance. One of my favorite performances when I sit back. And somebody once told me that this is a good movie with a great performance. I think it's a good movie that is made great by a great performance, if that makes any sense. And I do like the style too, because Refn's got a great style. He always chooses really interesting music, and the lighting's always great. And the scenes on the stage are interesting too. Seeing Tom Hardy and this weird makeup singing rock and roll and all that kind of stuff, as like he's kind of this. He always wanted to be famous, and you can see that at any cost necessary. He goes through. I couldn't sing, I couldn't act, kind of breaking down, limiting what I can do. I just think this is a great film. I love the scene in the mental hospital, the part where they have him all doped up and that music is playing and he's just looking up to the heavens and the camera work and he's just like, why? He's just in hell. He's in absolute hell there. And that song choice is also perfect. I'm a fan of Refn's movies. I like Neon Demon. I love Bronson. I love Drive. I love Only God Forgives. I haven't seen the Pusher trilogy, Bleeder, or he has another one. What is it? Oh, geez, I know. Valhalla Rising. I haven't seen those. I should watch them. I most definitely should, being a fan of his other films so much. But this one is it's just kind of a work of art. And I love how it's shot. I like how it's done. Some of the slow motion stuff, like fighting, like a lot of the brawling looks great, and then a lot of it looks really weird in slow motion. I'm not sure if I like it that much, but I just don't care enough to be bothered by it because I enjoy the movie so much. And the performance is really what does it. Like all the other acting's solid as well, but he's just very good in it. It's just a unique performance. It's kind of like the story that kind of what made him famous for me. Like, has anybody seen like bringing him up? And I love his performance in here. He's not, and seeing him talk in the special features and stuff, he definitely was very dedicated to the role. And yeah, great score. Great movie. I can't say much more about it really, but I mean the quotes in here. There's so many quotes too. It's just like a lot of the stuff is completely inappropriate. He is a violent criminal, but anyways, the voice he has is just I don't even know. It's just like I said, it like kind of stated like Tom Hardy is an actor who doesn't really talk very much from what I've seen in his movies, and a lot of the classic actors didn't either. Like they always said, Clint Eastwood was always trying to get rid of dialogue in scripts. Wasn't he? Steve McQueen was always trying to get rid of dialogue. I don't want to say that. It's trying to get rid of the shit. And a lot of times it works effectively. Like I used a scene from The Searchers that I thought brought up instead of John Wayne like bawling or screaming or saying something when you see his face or the reaction shot of his dead family, you just see his face. Like reactionary actors, they're not always. And he does talk a lot in this, right? He does talk a lot, especially because he's on stage kind of going to the crowd. But when he's actually interacting with people, he's not always the one talking. He's very quiet, he's very nervous, and when he interacts with other people. So that's what I'm kind of getting at, too. Like when he interacts with the guy who sets up a lot of the fights for him, and he's like, "You got really great big hands." He's just like, that's a great scene. Just lots of stuff like that. Just the interactions he has actually with people, he's almost a little bit more silent. A lot of people. Like I said, it wasn't a great example because he does monologue the whole movie, but like interactions with people, he doesn't say all that much sometimes. And that's just kind of a thing that Tom Hardy does, I guess. Maybe I've even seen like Lawless. I'm sure he talks a lot in a lot of other movies, but the ones that I'm referencing, what worked for me is him being kind of a silent kind of guy. In The Revenant, he says like 2 sentences. He doesn't talk very much. Here and there, but I feel like that's kind of probably a quiet movie anyways, because who the hell wants to talk in that miserable existing world? Anyways, Bronson, great stuff. Okay, we're going to have some 1970 movies. They're going to be quickies for you. The first one is Night Slaves, which is a TV movie. It kind of veers into sci-fi more than horror, I would say. But James Franciscus is a guy, actor. He's in this. He stars in this. He got in a car accident years ago, and he is kind of vacationing in this small town with his wife. They're having marital trouble. That's exactly a TV movie. You got to have strife within the marriage, or it doesn't work. So they're having some trouble here. I can't remember who plays his wife. I think it's like somebody like Lee Grant or somebody's in here. I can't remember exactly who plays his wife. The picture quality on a lot of these old TV movies when you watch them isn't great anyways. But James Franciscus is in stuff like The Last Shark, of course, the second Planet of the Apes, the Dario Argento Giallo. Which one is he in? Is he in Cat o' Nine Tails or Four Flies? I can't remember which one he's in. watch those movies for the first time back to back, and they just bleed together sometimes. Although I like both of them, and I remember the outcomes. I think he's in Cat O' Nine Tails. I think he's in Cat O' Nine Tails. So yeah, he's a decent actor. I like him. He's got a good look. Um, good leading man look. So he goes into this small town, and at night he sees all these trucks with all the townspeople kind of getting in there, including his wife, and driving off. And he's confused. He's the only one not affected by it. He does not understand what's happening. He starts to look into it in the morning. No one believes him that this is happening. They're night slaves. He doesn't get it. There's also some other familiar faces in here. I know I'm probably forgetting a couple, but Leslie Nielsen is the town's sheriff. Like I said, there's a couple faces in here that I reckon. Oh, Andrew Prine is in here as well. But he starts to dig, and there's this one woman kind of wandering the streets that tells him a little bit. He realizes that, something's going on, and I don't want to spoil too much. This is a strange film, and I don't really know how to go about anything else without spoiling it. It's decent. It's a little dull. Let's put it this way. This movie put me to sleep like 8 times. It's a very short movie. It's like 70 minutes. And it's like, Dave, that's your fault. You have a terrible attention span. But, I mean, I watched Jess Franco's Count Dracula like this, on the edge of my seat for the second time. And so it can't be that bad of an attention span. I love Jess Franco's Count Dracula, spoiler. But so, yeah, this movie was so dull in the beginning. I mean, the middle and the beginning, fuck it. Just a dull movie with a great concept and a really solid TV cast. But I seriously felt like somebody hit me over the head or something. I was just like, ugh. I fell asleep like 4 times and had to rewind it. And I know that's on me. I know it's on me. I know, guys. I'm sorry. But it's just a little dull. The pacing is off. There's a lot of talking, and the payoff really isn't worth it. So I would probably skip Night Slaves, especially if you're following 22 Shots for the 1970 show and you're watching a bunch of 1970 movies. Watch Jonathan or The Strangler or something like the Anson Woods instead of Night Slaves. Okay, we have another one from 1970 called From Ear to Ear. This is a French film, and the title, it's a great title. You think From Ear to Ear, the old slitting their throat from ear to ear. There's no throat slitting in this movie, so I don't know why that title's there. But this is a really incestuous, weird gothic, more of a thriller than a horror film, I must admit, or drama, thriller, horror would probably be in that order. So what we have here is this woman who's kind of struggling financially. Her husband has died. She has her daughter living with her, a niece living with her, and another daughter who is kind of in catatonia in a wheelchair. And they all must take care of her. Her medical bills are astronomical. They're making them go broke. The lawyer is kind of dating the mother, and it's kind of on the down low. And, it's kind of an affair, of course, I should say. But that's not the only thing that is abnormal going on in this household. The sister is screwing the cousin. They have this weird relationship, and I was taken back because it's 1970. I was like, is that what's happening here? Are they actually cousins? And seeing the mother refer to them more as it went on, I was like, they are. So they have this weird jealousy over each other. They both have their own kind of men on the side. But it's just a weird movie. So it's not much happens, to be honest. You kind of have this setup where something, triggered the sister in the wheelchair, and the girls are getting this big scheme so they can have a party, and something horribly, I don't even want to say tragic, it's just all in out murder. But through this murder, they figure out what caused the daughter to have catatonia. And it's pretty disturbing. It's pretty gothic style. And it's actually, the end scene is the only real horror scene in here where I was like, oh, wow, that is really messed up stuff. It has a decent amount of nudity, especially for 1970. There's a lot of explicit stuff going on, I would say. And the lesbianism incest is enough to kind of be like, wow, that's a little ahead of its time for sure. All the people in the film look good and stuff, and there's a decent amount of nudity, like I said, but I really can't. I would give this a recommend just because the time and the weird gothicness and the reveal and the boundaries, I guess, it pushed for the time. But that's From Ear to Ear. Great title, even though a little misleading. So yeah. Okay, the next one from 1970 is Crowhaven Farm. Another TV film, right? I'm knocking all these TV movies out. So this one, who's the big actor in here for me? It is John Carradine. That's right. Got to have John Carradine movie in 1970. I'm sure he was in 37 movies this year. I'll find out. Anyways, Crowhaven Farm. So this opens up in kind of a gothic style. We're at one of these, what do they call these when somebody's died and they're giving away, they're reading the will. So the lawyer basically, there's a couple there, a middle-aged couple, like maybe 40 or something, mid 40s at the latest, and an older man, and they're reading the will, and he's supposed to inherit Crowhaven Farm if he goes there within a week or something like that, inhabits the farm. Otherwise, the couple get the farm. So it starts off. This movie takes no time starting. It's like 70 minutes. It doesn't have any like air at all. It's just like go, 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 go. Almost, I don't want to say it's to its detriment because it's a TV movie and it doesn't have time to pad things out. It just really has to get going. So right in the beginning, this guy gets in a car accident and he dies, and the farm goes to the couple. They move in quickly. The wife has some real awful feeling about it almost immediately, like she's having flashes of the past, she thinks, and maybe ancestral stuff. So she's just not wanting to deal with it. The husband wants to keep it because he's a painter, and this is a great spot for his paintings, and they're on the broke side. You learn that this couple has not been able to have a kid. So that's been haunting them. They're having marital trouble. The husband is extremely jealous of everything. And the townspeople are kind of coming around. So with the flashes and the paranoia, you start to kind of get a Rosemary's Baby feeling going on, right? Even down to the husband getting basically good work after, like with John Cassavetes, when something happens. So it's kind of a rip of Rosemary's Baby, to be honest, to a certain extent. But it does have maybe like a flashback to the puritanical witch times and stuff, which I thought was kind of cool as well. So instead of that, but it is kind of a cult kind of style film. Anyways, I like the location. They end up adopting a young girl. I've been like all over the place, but I like the location. I think it's fairly well acted. I think the flashes are decent. It's a little I don't want to say uneventful because the pacing is good and it gets straight to the point, but it's not exactly the most thrilling film of all time. But I do think it's good, and I do think it's worth your time. And there's some decent creepy stuff here, some decent creepy elements. But they adopt a young daughter, and that ties into the past and everything like that. Anyways, I thought this was a good film. I enjoyed it, and it's all set up well. What happens is set up well, and the ending has a little role by William Smith, great actor from Red Dawn and a bunch of other films. You guys will know him from Maniac Cop. I think he's in the first Maniac Cop. He's just a big, strong guy. He's in Boss with Fred Williamson. I think he's the main baddie that he fights at the end. Just a character actor. Great character actor. But anyways, that's Crowhaven Farm. Decent 1970 TV movie. Yeah, I would check it out. What?
What is this?
Zombie Bloodbath 2, Rage of the Undead.
Oh.
What? You ain't seen Zombie Bloodbath 2, Rage of the Undead?
Nah, I guess I must have missed that one.
You ain't seen nothing.
You ain't seen nothing.
I seen way more than you.
Mm-hmm.
You haven't seen Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, Casino, Cannibal Holocaust, The Beginning, The Great Escape, Kelly's Heroes, Once Upon a Time in the fucking West.
You haven't seen War and Peace, Pink Flamingos, Casablanca, Gone with the Wind, Citizen Kane, The Alvin and the Chipmunks Christmas Special.
You haven't seen, what else haven't you seen? The Magnificent Seven? The Magnificent Seven Ride Again? The Magnificent Seven Are Back? Is that a movie? And last of all, you ain't seen Zombie Bloodbath 2, Rage of the Undead.
And you haven't seen War and Peace.
I ain't watching War and Peace.
The hell you are.
Fuck War and Peace! Hey guys, we're here for You Ain't Seen, and this is my pick for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I picked a 1970 movie, because I was going to watch it anyways, and I wanted you to watch it. I picked the legendary 1970, that's right, by Jess Franco, Count Dracula, starring Christopher Lee, Herbert Lom, Klaus Kinski, Miranda Soledad, and Jack fucking Taylor. That is a great Euro cult cast. Okay. So this, like I said last week, was the only, not the only time that he played Count Dracula besides the Hammer movies. There was a comedy movie too. But he did this in 1970 in the middle of the Hammer Draculas because I think that Jess Franco was going to allow him to read actual lines from Count Dracula. This is closer to the book than anyone would actually expect from a Jess Franco movie.
From a Jess Franco movie, yeah.
And I think it's one of the closer adaptations I've ever seen of Dracula. They condense things, they change things around just to make it a little bit more short. And convenient, but also at the same time more logical than the actual original Dracula book, because you don't have you don't have all the notes, so you don't see exactly happening. Like if they were to play Dracula as it played without showing any of it would make no sense, I don't think, without any of the background stuff.
You can never adapt Dracula as it's written into any production period. It's too long. It might work as a TV show or like a mini-series.
Yeah. I think there was one recently that just came out.
Yeah, but I think that it's too disconnected. I mean, there are like maybe 3 arcs in Dracula, and they're really separate from each other. They don't really logically flow into a narrative because the book isn't written in that way.
It's strange. It's written by diary entries. Everybody knows that. And then, like, even in, like, towards the end of the book, Van Helsing gets one. And you're just like, you can tell Bram Stoker was trying to avoid doing a Van Helsing one until the very end. He was like, fuck, I got to do a Van Helsing one, even though it's going to screw up the structure of the story because I haven't had him write one yet.
Right.
So, okay, this one condenses a lot of the characters, like the Prince and Seward. Dr. Seward is in here, but the Prince, Seward, and Quincy Morris. Is Quincy Jones or Quincy Morris, I think. Whatever. The Texan is all kind of mixed into one character, and that's Jack Taylor. Although Seward is in here, he's almost more of a non-character.
He's a non-character, yeah.
This starts with Harker, of course. Harker is in Dracula's castle. We have the great gothic setup of him riding in the carriage, and everybody's saying, don't go there. I'm warning you not to go there. Of course, he goes there. They have the great scene where Christopher Lee, as the stagecoach driver, actually picks him up, and you know it's Dracula, because they do that in the book, too. It's obviously fucking Dracula, but he's, like, condensed, and, like, he mentions that, like, I think that was the same guy. But that's a really cool scene. Instead of wolves, we have these dogs. They're just like German shepherds kind of wandering around, which I love. So it actually has some of the direct lines. He does Creatures of the Night, that line, which Bela Lugosi got to do as well, which is probably the most memorable line in Dracula, period. Became the most memorable line, at least in cinema. I thought the opening was really solid, really dead on. After Harker kind of wanders and is found in the woods, they change things around. He sets up everything for Dracula to kind of move and get situated. But I love the scene. I'm a big fan of this movie. Rewatching it, I love the scene when he does the whole, basically, now that was a Dracula. When Lee does that whole speech about the Draculas killing things. That's from the book, too. Like, there's so much good stuff. Like, yeah, Lee's great in this one. This is... I don't care what anybody says. I know people are like, oh, Dracula's way better made movie. It's not shoddy. It's not shit. Lee does better in this movie.
He does do better.
Lee gets more to do. They gave Lee freedom, and he's fucking one of the best actors, especially when it comes to horror and cult films. Lee's one of the top 3 actors when it comes to that kind of thing.
You know, when he's doing the Hammer stuff, specifically, I think the Dracula Hammers, he's reserved. I mean, there's one where he doesn't even talk, and I
like him in those movies. Don't get me wrong.
I mean, I do like him, but I think a good majority of like this, he's not in them for very much screen time. You know, most of in the first movie, sure, he has some good scenes in it, but I'd say every movie thereafter, a good half of the runtime is them trying to just resurrect him in some capacity. So you might get him for 5-10 minutes at the end, but like.
Sometimes he's not even in the movie.
Right, sometimes he's not even in the movie. You know, he pops up, he might have a few lines, and then he gets taken down by a bush or something. you know, it's
Hawthorne bush.
Right.
Also, we're saying this like thinking that we knew how unhappy Christopher Lee was doing that Dracula role a million times, so maybe we're putting that on the movies as well. Right. Anyways, he has a mustache. In this one, which I like, he obviously had to differentiate the look so people wouldn't be like, I don't understand how this one comes out after this one and this one, because those kind of have like some sort of coherent storyline, unlike the Hammer Frankensteins, which are all over the fucking place. You can't make ends meet of that. It's obviously not a continuation of the series. So when Harker finally wakes up, they change things around. Now he's at Seward and Van Helsing run the school. Van Helsing is obsessed with the occult, so that's why he has Renfield there, because Renfield supposedly had a run-in with the vampire. Renfield is Klaus Kinski. Who else would fucking Klaus Kinski play in this movie? Although he did play Nosferatu a couple times. But Herbert Lom is a great choice for Abraham
Oh,
Van
yeah.
Helsing. He's one of my favorite actors as well. He pops up in stuff like The Sick, The Dead Zone, The Secret Life of Dorian Gray. And he's just got this really great, and the Pink Panther movies, class about him. I just like how he's reserved, how he delivers his lines. And there is this brilliant scene where he goes full Rudd Steiger and just like has a stroke, which I was
Right.
like, "What the fuck is happening?" I forgot about that scene. Like they literally have him like sit, like it's almost like he's having a stressful moment. He just like looks up and he just like has a stroke. And I was like, and then later he's in a wheelchair. He's like, "I had a mild stroke."
Yeah, there's like when stuff's starting to like fall apart, and it is like a minute scene where like he's at his desk and he like looks right at the camera, and it just like zooms
And he's
in
like
on his face.
just like shaking like his head. I was just
yeah,
like,
there's no dialogue,
and I didn't know what happened.
right? And like when I'm watching, I'm like the only one that can take down Dracula is the Phantom, and he would like put on his Phantom of the Opera mask.
We said that would be a great idea because he played the Phantom in the
Right.
Terrence Fisher Hammer.
Right.
If we had a movie where it was the Phantom of the Opera versus Dracula, where Dracula's in the audience because he's high class and likes to watch sophisticated things, and he sees, I can't remember the actress that, the singer that the Phantom's involved with, who's training, sees Christy sees her singing, and he's like, I must have her. Reminds me of old love. Phantom's like, that's my star pupil. Phantom and Dracula are going at it. Phantom's setting traps. Realizes he's the vampire. He has mirrors and garlic and this shit. And Dracula has to go through it. It would be awesome. The Phantom versus Dracula. What was I going to call it? The Vampire of the Opera?
Right.
Come on.
Yeah,
Vampire of the Opera. That writes itself.
But then going back to the Franco Dracula, like the very next scene is like they're at an opera house.
Yeah, so like that's why we came up with it. It was like perfect. Jess Franco's actually in this too, and he's very reminiscent of that role he plays in one of the, is it Vampiros Lesbos, where he's this guy whose wife was taken from him, and like he plays like the Renfield character in that, but he plays the same kind of character in this. He works at the mental hospital where Dr. Stewart and Van Helsing run, and I feel like he's a former patient because there's these really weird fucking moments where he calls him in and he's like, go like calm Renfield down, and he's just like. He doesn't say anything. He just stares at the screen like. And if anybody knows how Jess Franco looks, he's like 5 foot, and he's got like this hair, and he's just like adorable. He's like this little cute little thing. Like he cracks me up. I love Jess Franco. Like I think I like Jess Franco better than half of it in like 90% of his movies. But like he's just such a weird guy, interesting like director.
He's fun. I think a lot of his movies are fun.
Yeah.
And I think it's weird. Earlier on, I think his movies are stronger, and I think as time goes on, I don't know if he snapped or what.
The budgets, the movie, the
Yeah.
cinema changed, and he didn't have the budgets anymore. Maybe he had too many failures, and people wouldn't pay for it. But this is the time when like Harry Allen Towers was paying for his movies. That's the same guy who paid for the Fu Manchu movies with Christopher Lee, of course. And I think he's in another. I think is Christopher Lee in Eugenie too, and he's in The Bloody Judge, which Franco did this year. So no, I mean like his movies were good, like Vampiros Lesbos and She Killed in Ecstasy and Venus in Furs. Those are awesome movies. Those are great Euro movies. And I mentioned the two, Vampiros Lesbos and She Killed in Ecstasy, because those have Soledad Miranda in this. And this might have been one of the first times he worked with her. He might have had one in '69 that she had a brief role in, I think. This is the first she plays Lucy in here, which they switched the hair color. You mentioned that.
Yeah.
But she plays Lucy in here, and you were like, why is she playing Lucy? She should play Nina. And I was like, well, because she's going to look amazing as a vampire. And then when they show her in the vampire scene in the graveyard eating the children and shit, I was like, I told you she looks great as a vampire. She has a really unique look about her, and she is one of these people that would have been a horror icon. She still is, even a handful of movies that she got to do before she died in a car accident. But like you look at her and you're like, I don't want to say she'd be Barbara Steele or something, but she could have very well been like a big horror icon that people still bring up. They still bring her up, but like Jess Franco would have put her in 6,000 movies.
Right.
So, and then she probably would have got a little bit more mainstream success, I think. And maybe popped up even some Hammer. I just see it. So, like, the cast is great. Like, it's just a smorgasbord of these people that are just like, this is like, I mean, Jack Taylor in here is good as well. Stewart might be the weakest link.
Yeah, I mean, Stewart is...
He's fine. He's a decent actor. It's just they don't give him much to do.
Yeah, they don't give him much to do. They, like, delegate his character...
To Quincy.
No, I think to Van Helsing and Quincy,
And
really.
Quincy, they separate everything.
I would say that, I would not say that this is a faithful adaptation of Dracula.
It's closer than you got to remember. We watched all those Hammer ones.
Right.
Not one of those is even close.
No, but like Dracula as a book, like when you're looking at Dracula, it's not a story about a vampire. It's a story of dualities.
Yeah.
Everything in Dracula has an opposite.
Science versus religion.
Science versus religion or superstition. Traditional
East versus
woman
West, right?
versus new women. East versus West. Like those are the core themes of that book.
Then there's never been a true rendition of Dracula.
No, there never has. There never will.
I'm just talking story points, not themes.
But even going story points though, like I said, when you take away when you're condensing the characters, I think that a lot of it is lost. Because like the different character, like I don't think every adaptation of Dracula I've seen, they just take 2 or 3 characters and combine them together.
It's very hard to find the 7 main characters from the book. But I will say this. If you look at Euro horror in general, that superstition versus science is a huge theme in the Euro horror.
It's everywhere.
And even stuff like Alacarda had it. And the Euro horror is my favorite at it, especially some of the Spanish and Italian stuff, because it's just... Although, like, you feel like these people are deeply religious and they understand it, they're very critical of the religion. And then at the very end, anyways... The religion is right. It's like a self-fulfilling fate. Like it's weird. Like it's awful, but we need it to stop the monster because the science didn't work, and it's actually the religion. I don't know. Like Alacarda was like that. I love Alacarda, but it's just interesting too. And some of the Giallo, of course, would shit more on religion because there's no supernatural elements in those. But no, I do feel like the science is super. Everybody, there's always a skeptic. You have to have a skeptic,
right? And
there is at first. And I like this one better than Horror Dracula. I know it's not. I'm not saying it's a better movie. But Harker and Quincy in this are more like. I mean, it's not just drawn out. And Horror Dracula, Michael Gow, he just. I know it's the love of his life. He doesn't want to stake her, but he just is such a whiny bastard. And this one, though, they probably could have used a little bit more emotion because they're sitting, like, using the spade to knock her head off. And they're like, let's get this over with. I don't know. It's really entertaining. They do switch around where Van Helsing, they make basically stay at the hospital instead of going on the trip, which was a switch up. And I do like what happens to Dracula at the very end. Like it's fried. And they do have the nomadic people that are constantly around Dracula and everything too, which is another kind of thing. Like there's a lot of stuff in here that is, it's basically the meat and potatoes of the story are there and a lot of the stuff. So, it doesn't have all the details. It doesn't have all the themes explored as well as you could. But the score is great. I really like the score, even though it is sometimes piercingly loud to where you have to turn down.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, wow.
But, like, there was, like, a lot of, like, it's like an ambient score in some parts, and, like, it's like a sustained violin string, and it's like, this is nerve-wracking.
I guess that's its intent. But, did you want to read the books, or did you want to...
Yeah, we can read them.
All right, before we give ours. Okay.
Yeah. Count Dracula, 2 out of 4.
You got Terror on Tape by James
I got Terror on Tape by, James O'Neill, you said that. Promoted at the time of its making as the first definitive version of Bram Stoker's Dracula, this deviates from the text almost immediately and is hampered by cheap production values and Franco's ham-fisted direction. On the plus side are Lee's excellent performance as Viscount, who grows progressively younger as in the novel, good support from Lum and Kinski, and rich color photography, a.k.a. Bram Stoker's Count Dracula.
We should also mention Klaus Kinski, fucking insane in this movie, and like he's just doing this like weird, crazy, like kind of like feminine performance from him, where he's like holding his hand out and picking up bugs, and it's a good performance. It's a silent performance, but you could see why his interaction with many of the other cast was probably limited. Like especially you hear about like. Remember that scene where he's like laying on the bed, like trying to talk, and like you're like, I feel like he was going to say something there, but then he just wouldn't do it or something.
Like I feel like maybe they gave him a line, because he's like, I think he's talking to Stuart, and he's like moaning, And like he moans for like 30 seconds, and it's like, okay, well, you're not going to get your line now, Claus, because you're just hamming it up too much.
I don't want to talk. I'm
Right.
not talking anymore.
Exactly.
So, Count Dracula, creature features John Stanley, 1970, 2 out of 5 stars. Spanish-British adaptation of Bram Stoker's Dracula, produced by co-writer Harry Allen Towers and directed by Jess Franco. However, a gap remains between honorable intentions and execution, and the film still falls short of its goals, with sloppy camera work and bad zooms. Christopher Lee believes this to be among his best work, but it's certainly not the best Dracula. Herbert Lom as Van Helsing, and Klaus Kinski as Renfield. Fred Williams, Soledad Miranda, a.k.a. Bram Stoker's Count Dracula, Dracula 71, and Night of Dracula, Republic Pictures. I think that they're wrong. I am giving it 4 out of 5. I like Count Dracula.
I mean, it's a good fun movie. I'd give it like a 3 out of 5. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. Like, it depends on what you want from the movie. Like I said, I mean, they completely changed Harker's character, Stewart's character.
They had to condense it, or the movie would be 6 years
character.
long.
I mean,
Dracula's like 1 million pages. They had to condense it. And who needs the prints? They didn't need money because they condensed the area in this. Instead of them driving like, we got to drive halfway across the world to get Dracula. Like, I know it's an epic book and a story. Although the one thing I would have liked to see is the boat trip.
Everybody wants to see the boat trip. The boat trip's the most boring bit to me. Disclaimer though, I do not like Dracula. I've never cared for Dracula. I do not encourage anyone to read Dracula. I do not encourage anyone to enjoy reading Dracula or enjoy
Are you encouraging people not to enjoy it? What if they're enjoying it and then you're like,
do not
discourage you to enjoy this. You should not enjoy this.
Do not ever read Dracula. Do not ever get any joy from it.
Stop. Watch 1 million. I read Dracula, and even if I thought that Frankenstein was 1 million times better of a book, I got a lot of appreciation out of reading that book because it helped me to understand all the movie adaptations better what they lifted from it. Mm-hmm. I have not watched the Universal's Dracula in so long. I wonder how faithful it is to the book. Well, probably not very faithful. We're gonna watch it.
Yeah, we're gonna do the Universals at some point.
I want to ask you guys which movie, guys and gals, or non-guys and gals, whatever, you peoples, which Universal movie we should start with. Now, some people consider the Lon Chaney Sr. Universal, or at least like, I think they would be considered, some people say it started with Dracula in 1931, but I think that we start with Hunchback, The Shock, and Phantom of the Opera with Lon Chaney Sr. and just go down there and do some of those early ones. I know some people consider those Universals. I'm not sure exactly on the release there if they picked them up later. They were Universal, or a company that wasn't Universal but became Universal. But I definitely want to start with Lon Chaney Sr. movies because I think that without that, there is no real Universal monster history, to be honest.
We're not doing King Kong, right? I don't want to watch King Kong.
King Kong's not really considered a Universal,
Okay.
not in that same vein, if that makes any sense. I love King Kong.
I do. It's
King Kong is one of the best movies ever made, but also at the same time.
I think we just watched it a few months ago.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's not really something that belongs in there. Most people don't consider putting it in that list. There are some we'll cut out, like Shadow of the Cat, which was a Hammer movie, and Horror of Dracula, which some people consider that. I think we're going to include the Paramount movies, some of the Paramount ones acquired by Universal in 58. There's a master list. And I don't know, the one classic monster that I don't see much of in the Universal line is Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde. There is Abbott Costello, but I would like to watch some of the classic Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde movies too, somewhere along the line. I know there's a 1913 one, 1921, 1931, 1940, and then of course there's ones in the 70s with Jack Palance and stuff. But I would only, the last movie we're going to stop with in the Universal line would be Psycho. And I know people are like, that's not a Universal horror movie, but Jeremy hasn't seen Psycho, and I think it's the perfect place to kind of show. I know I've seen this written before, and I would agree that this is like the changeover. Like Psycho is the first big one that's not like, this is kind of a wake-up call that Universal Gothic stuff is maybe coming to an end at some point.
I'm not watching Psycho.
Yes, you are.
I've seen every adaptation of Psycho.
I don't give a shit you're watching Psycho, or I'm breaking everything. Everything's broken. All right, so what movie are you going to pick? Are you going to do a Universal, a Blind Spot, or You Ain't Seen, or what?
You know, I really want to do the third Planet of the Apes.
That's what you want to do, Blind Spot? It'll be a Blind Spot.
Yeah. I don't want to do Universal yet. You pick the Universals when you get there. You know,
I got the sets, so all the stuff came in, so we could start.
should we do? Yeah, let's go ahead and do a third Planet of the Apes.
Okay.
Neither of us have seen it, so
Nope.
it is a blind spot.
Double blind.
Yeah, it's not a you ain't seen. You know, if we can go back, because you know we never did and we never will make a final episode of the original Blind Spot last year.
You're supposed to do that.
Sorry, guys, it just don't.
Next week. It might be the week after next. People won't even know what we're talking about.
They won't. We've already lost them. So, of all those movies that we watched, my favorite.
No, we can't do it. We gotta let people know. Do you guys want to see that still? We'll ask them.
Okay, we'll just save this for a deleted scene then, and we'll see
not.
you guys next week.
We're not saving anything for deleted scene. Next week is the third Planet of the Apes. I do not remember the name because they're all like Conquest of the Planet of the Apes,
Really?
Battle of the Planet of the Apes, Escape from the Planet of the Apes, Battle Beneath the Planet of the Apes, Beneath the Planet of the Apes. I don't remember what order they come in, but we'll make sure we pick the right one.
Right, we'll get it. Yeah, because number 2 is fantastic.
Charlton Heston's not in any of the ones after that.
I don't like Jonathan Heston. I'm sorry. I've seen him in 3 movies, and I'm like, he's
Stay
a
here. I'll be back.
terrifying looking man. He looks like if you took Clint Eastwood and like skinned him alive.
He looks like if you turn Clint Eastwood into one of those guys from Part 2.
Exactly.
Okay, no, he doesn't, but all right, we're done.
Bye.
Okay, let's get into these questions, answers, comments, all that good stuff. So basically what I asked you last week was any 2 actors or actresses, anytime, alive or dead, that you would have liked to see work together or still work together. So we have Joe Carroll, Mads Mikkelsen, and Emma Watson, and something like Hounds of Love or Hard Candy would be amazing. Ken Coakley, I would have liked to have Lon Chaney Sr. and Tom Savini work together. The only thing is, who would do the makeup FX? It would have been great to see them do a frame-for-frame remake of London After Midnight, for sure. I don't know if these people work together, or maybe it can be a holdback from last week's question. Who would you like to see in any role? I always thought a Dawn of the Dead remake with Lawrence Fishburne as Peter, Tim Roth as Roger, Sam Neill as Flyboy, Scarlett Johansson as Fran. That's a very good cast. That's a good cast. I personally think Sam Neill as Flyboy is excellent. That would have been very good. I think he could have been a perfect Flyboy. Nick Mua. The Pirates of Penzance looks like a hoot. I'll be sure to check it out soon. Though for a hot minute I thought you guys were reviewing the pirate movie featuring Christopher Atkins and Christy McNeil. Or is it McNeil? Or I'm not sure on her name. I recognize the name. I'm just not sure if I've ever seen it spelled out. Throw me off. Which spoofs Penzance, but can you spoof a film that's already so comedic? That's kind of hard, isn't it? Like spoofing a comedic movie. As for which thespians I'd like to see on screen together, Christopher Lee and James Earl Jones. Their combined voices alone would be music to the ears. Charles Bronson and Bruce Willis, ooh, what a mugging contest that would be. Finally, Faye Ray and Jamie Lee Curtis. Their combined screams would be blood-curdling. That'd be awesome. Speaking of scallywags, do you have a favorite pirate film? Oh, jeez. I mean, pirate movies. For me, that is not a very broad choice because I can't think of that many pirate films. And I never had like a subgenre where I watched a lot of the swashbuckling movies and pirate stuff. So, geez. Would people consider like any of the Harryhausen movies pirates? I feel like there's a lot of boat action and going shore to shore. Muppet Treasure Island is fun. It's been years since I've watched that. The Island with Michael Caine has a bunch of pirates in it. It's just really hard for me to recall pirate movies, and the Pirates of the Caribbean movies I never really watched. So yeah, Pirates of Penzance is really fun. I know I'm probably missing a huge pirate movie that's going to bite me in the ass, but I gave you a couple that I like. So, and then he says, are there any consolation prizes for those who didn't win the Santa Sangre box set? Hugs and kisses from Goomba the cat. You and Jeremy Croning a power ballad. I prefer Wind Beneath My Wings, sir. Not gonna happen. Which movie would you like to make a spoof of? Ooh. I think that a spoof... I don't know if I'd ever make a spoof, to be honest. I would make a spoof of the Amityville movies. I know my friend Nathan Rumler made Amityville Vibrator, but I would make a movie called Amityville, Gimme Your Money. Or Give Me Your Fucking Money, and it would literally just be about a bunch of guys trying to make an Amityville movie, and behind the scenes of them being like shoddy pieces of shit, like, who cares, we'll just put Amityville on the title, and everybody's gonna rent it, and maybe just spoof that, making a bad Amityville movie. That would be fun, yeah. So Isimisio, a lot of 70s films feature some dark, serious, subversive content that probably won't fly today. I've always preferred that decade over the 80s, no question about it. Most films have an incredible rewatch value and are more aligned with my taste, since I'm not the biggest fan of comedies or slashers. You've never seen Calvaire? Holy shit. Would love to hear what you have to say about it. Adoration looks good. Need to check it out. Jay the Stingray, what's up, brother? Not much. How you been? I know it's been a long time since we've corresponded. I know you used to be big into working out. You still working out? David Scott, need more Heathers references. Okay, I'd love to see Marlon Brando and Daniel Day-Lewis to have done a movie together. Me, Horseshow, I find Six String Samurai weird movie because he uses a one-handed Chinese broadsword. It's not a samurai sword, but it's cool to watch, I guess. And he boasts, I drink your blood. You talked before, but I'm glad you mentioned it again. I don't know if it was inspired. I didn't know it was inspired by the Manson family. I like the redhead in the movie. He says, I watched it last month on YouTube. I saw people leaving negative comments, but I thought it was a good film. Maybe because I'm a sucker for good-looking redhead movies. Okay. Creep Show and Chainsaw Massacre 2. Basically, we started a conversation on there. So he says, Horror Cinema, I was born in 1970. I need to check out some of these films. Kentuckinator, 26.30, here. That's when I basically mentioned how bad 2005 movies are way worse than bad 1970 movies. Adam Watson, Benny Loves You is a lot of quirky fun. Worked for me, made me laugh. Me too, sir. Adrian J. Smith, separate videos for each movie are much better. Why lump them all together? Means people have to skip through to enjoy the ones they are interested in. No one else does it like this that I'm aware of. I'm generally intrigued as why you do it like this. Well, I keep timestamps. Also, I make it a show because I have an audio version. Also, that way, if somebody's listening for one movie and they hear something about another movie, maybe they wouldn't be too interested. Maybe it'll catch their attention. Maybe it'll broaden their horizons. Maybe, I don't know. Also, like, if I were to cut them up, I feel like putting 8 movies or 8 reviews up all week and rendering and stuff would take a long time, and it would screw up the algorithms. I know a lot of people, if I put up like one movie every day, maybe it would go up higher. I don't think so. I think that it would actually hurt your algorithms because ever since that YouTube kind of changed how it does things, it's just not as easy to get subscribers or get views or anything like that unless you're already huge. So okay, then we have Mike Moore. I like having one video. Even if I'm semi-busy, I can put it in the background until something catches my eyes. And then, I don't even know how to say this. Something Movie Corner. I love it. So, Jamal Potter, Charles Bronson, and Clint Eastwood. I mentioned I know they were in an episode of Rawhide together. Not sure if they shared screen time. Mike Malloy. I seem to remember they are once in the same scene, but not the same shot, unless maybe just a wide. And Paul Talbot posts a scene, and he says they appear in one shot together. It shows a still. So, yep. Then Jason Willard, Bruce and Brandon Lee. Troy Howarth would have wanted to see Christopher Lee and Daniel Day-Lewis work together. Renee Royer, Chris Farley and John Belushi. James Higgins, Jimmy Stewart and Barbara Steele. Carson Peters, Klaus Kinski and Daniel Day-Lewis with behind-the-scenes cameras rolling all the time. Matthew L. Furman, great topics, so many. Philip Seymour Hoffman and Jackie. Yes, I'm aware I spelled this wrong. I'm not sure who that is. Corey Walter. Good news is they have a film together called The Master. Sherman Hirsch, Gilbert Godfrey and Shirley Temple, Steve McQueen and Butterfly McQueen, Peter Lorre and Betty White, Boris Karloff and Rip Taylor, Burt Reynolds and Debbie Reynolds, and then he also has Andre Braugher and Stefan Fenchit. Not an actor I'm familiar with. Jeremy R. says, don't be using my answer as an example. Basically, I asked a question on Facebook, and I said Christopher Lee, Peter Lorre. That was his answer. Paul Talbot, Bud Abbott, and Joe Pesci. That would have been great. Corey Walter, John Lithgow, and James Woods. Zachary Puccinelli, Sid Haig, and Billy Bob Thornton. Rakesh Brown, a new Die Hard with Most Def as a supporting actor. I want to see those two act together again. Peter England for next week's show. 2 actors you would love to see work together. Gary Oldman and Daniel Day-Lewis. David Gibson, I just did a Maniac and Made double feature and would love to see in an alternative universe Spinell and Angela Bettis play a psycho couple. And the question of the week is going to be recast your favorite movie with anyone. Take like the primary cast, even supporting, whoever you want, recast it with anyone. I've probably done this already, but like you want to recast The Dirty Dozen, Magnificent Seven, I know we've talked about those a bit, but recast your favorite movie with anyone you could possibly want. Like, so, or a movie you'd love to recast. So I guess we're going to hop into the Patreon drawing, and I'm going to do that right on the screen before we get into the update. And remind, I am going to cover Jason Willard, a movie because he hasn't been drawn out in 5 months, so he wanted me to cover Jorarsh, which is an Indian movie from the bag. So if you have not been drawn out within like five months or something like that, or five drawouts or whatever, let me know, and you can take one of your picks or a new pick, and I'll cover it. So I'm going to draw 5 out anyways. What do we got? Trying to break some of these up. Okay, we got Eau Claire and Little Monsters, which I'm excited to watch again because Little Monsters was one of my favorite films growing up. So, childhood favorite there. And I have the new Vestron. What else do we have? We have Tom Brooker. I survived a zombie holocaust. This is one I don't know what the hell it is, alright? Usually I'm pretty on zombie movies, like I know them, but I don't know what the hell that is. I've not heard about it until you asked me to cover it. So, I got one out here. I thought I had 2 for a second. Jim Simon, Rated X. I think that's the one with Emilio Estevez. Maybe Charlie Sheen's in that too. So that's 3. What else do we have? Chris Rivers, Public Enemy, with James Cagney. And it's the one. Jason Willard. I guess he's getting 2 this week or this time. So that's 18 Bronzeman. There we go. Is that 5 or 6? We should have 6. Yep, that's all of them. Till next time, I guess we're going to hop into the update. Okay, hopping into this update. First, we're going to show this big monstrosity here. This is the Ronin Flicks. It came like this. This is the I Spit on Your Grave set. They are releasing I Spit on Your Grave and I Spit on Your Grave Déjà Vu separately now. Got a little... Oop, I bumped that. Sorry about that, guys. So, yeah, this is the set here. It's got a decent hard box on there for the set. We got I Spit on Your Grave, the original. Didn't notice that rip in there. I Spit on Your Grave Déjà Vu, which I'm not a fan of. It's awful. And Growing Up, I Spit on Your Grave, which is a documentary, which I'm interested in as well. There's also a book in there. I'm a big fan of the original I Spit on Your Grave. I think it's pretty much one of the quintessential exploitation films. And then we have a poster in here as well. We might have 2 posters. Yeah, we have the original and the sequel. Yeah, this set was $50 on sale, and I think it was worth it. I'm happy I grabbed it. There's a new 4K scan of the original film in there. And we got a little fridge magnet, so you can look at Debbie Moore, yeah, on your fridge. Or you get a glass of milk or something. I don't know. Whatever you people eat. So now we're going to get into the other movies. Man, Target and Amazon were having these buy 2 get 1 sales again. So this is when I pretty much buy a lot of the Scream Factory. We have Harley Davidson and the Marlboro Man, Mickey Rourke and Don Johnson. Been a long time since I've seen this movie. I remember the very ending with Tom Sizemore. That's about it. And then we have the 7% Solution with the Sherlock Holmes movie. This is a Shout Factory release. We got Vanessa Redgrave and Alan Arkin in it. So Robert Duvall, yeah. Cole Williamson, nice cast. Should be good. Then we have The Last Unicorn, which I've never seen, but it's got good voice talents by Jeff Bridges, Mia Farrow, and Angela Lansbury. And somebody said Christopher Lee, too. So, yeah, this is a funny story about this movie. My friend, I shouldn't even say this, but anyways, you know how, like, sometimes back in the day when you're young, you have, like, recorded pornos, or somebody had a porno, and he was, like, said he was, like, 12, and he found this tape. His sister or brother, somebody left it behind, I don't know, and it said The Last Unicorn, and it was actually just a porno that somebody had taped a porno over, so, like, The Last Unicorn was the porno for him, like, the title, and it was supposed to be that movie, so it's just funny. I always remember that. So then we have The Wizard by Fred Savage. This is a classic kids movie that I don't know if I saw. There's a lot of those, like, that I've seen parts of growing up, and I can't remember. I mix them all up. Like, what was the one that, The Last Starfighter was most definitely one that I feel like I've seen as a kid, but I couldn't 100% remember everything until I started watching it. Then we have The Explorers by Joe Dante, the collector's edition, River Phoenix, Ethan Hawke. Good price on this one. I watched this one for the first time a little bit ago. I had not seen that one. I thought I might have, but I didn't. Then we have Phantom of the Opera with Herbert Lom, which I like. I like this one quite a bit. Big fan of Herbert Lom. Love Herbert Lom. Love Hammer. Like the Phantom of the Opera story as well. Terrence Fisher movie. Then we have Kiss of the Vampire, another Hammer one. I have that set, the old Universal set, but a lot of those aspect ratios supposedly messed up. This one's cool. This one's decent. Don't absolutely love it. It's one of the vampire movies that is not involved in the Dracula series or the Karstein trilogy from Hammer. So then we have Psycho, the remake. It was dirt cheap, like $8. It's all I'm going to pay for the remake of Psycho by Gus Van Sant with Vince Vaughn and William H. Macy, and who else is in here? Anne Heche, Viggo Mortensen. I don't even remember Viggo Mortensen in this. But, yeah. Then we have The Leopard Man, Val Lewton produced movie. Never seen this one. Good price on it. I try to buy any Val Lewton that comes out on Blu-ray. I think I have all the Blu-ray stateside so far. I know there's a couple that haven't been released here yet. So then we have Colossus, The Forbin Project. This is a 1970 sci-fi movie. So, yeah. From Scream, Shout Factory, whatever it is. Scream. And then we have some Kino, The Land Unknown. You guys will notice I'm starting to grab some of the lesser-known Universal horror, kind of horror-oriented titles, because me and Jeremy are going to go through the Universal horror films, and I'm going to go in-depth with them. We're going to get a bunch. So, yeah. Then we have The Strange Door, Charles Laughton, Boris Karloff. Never seen this one. The Monster That Challenged the World. If I'm not mistaken, this is the one with Dick Miller and Lee Van Cleef. Am I serious? Is it the right one? Maybe it's not. I don't remember. But this is one I've always wanted to see. I always remember the monster on that. So maybe that one was a Corman movie I think I'm thinking of. Regardless, this was on the list to get. What's the one I'm thinking of with those guys in it? I'll never remember. Then we have the Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde Deluxe Edition, Robert Louis Stevenson's, John Barrymore. I think this is one from 1913. Not a Universal film, but yeah. I'm interested in checking it out for sure. Like, looking at what people consider Universal and what they don't, it's different for a lot of people. And then we have Isle of the Dead from Warner Archive, Boris Karloff, Val Lewton produced. Then we have Little Shop of Horrors, Director's Cut. Great movie, a lot of fun. Rick Moranis, John Candy, Steve Martin's in here. Edward Scissorhands, it was very cheap, grabbed it. I always liked this movie. It's been a while since I watched it, so good stuff. And then we have box set here, The Inner Sanctum Mysteries, complete film collection, starring Lon Chaney Jr. It's got Calling Dr. Death, The Frozen Ghost, Weird Woman, Strange Confession, Dead Man's Eyes, and Pillow of Death. All, I think, qualify as Universals. That's a Mill Creek set. Then we have the last one I needed from the Universal Horror Collection. This is Volume 5. We have The Monster and the Girl, Captive Wild Woman, Jungle Woman, and Jungle Captive. This one is all, like, I guess, jungle and gorilla-oriented movies. So, cool. And then last, we got this big bad boy, which is the Universal Classic Monsters Complete 30-film collection on Blu-ray. I have a lot of these sets on DVD, but I wanted the Blu-ray set because this includes a little bit more than that. So we have Dracula, Frankenstein, The Mummy, The Invisible Man, The Bride of Frankenstein, Werewolf of London, Dracula's Daughter, Son of Frankenstein, The Invisible Man Returns, The Mummy's Hand, The Invisible Woman, The Wolfman, The Ghost of Frankenstein, Invisible Agent, The Mummy's Tomb, Frankenstein Meets the Wolfman, Phantom of the Opera, 43, Son of Dracula, The Invisible Man's Revenge, Mummy's Ghost, The House of Frankenstein, Mummy's Curse, House of Dracula, She-Wolf of London, Abbott Costello Meet Frankenstein, Abbott Costello Meet the Invisible Man, Creature from Black Lagoon, Revenge of the Creature, Abbott Costello Meet the Mummy, The Creature Walks Among Us. There we go. 30 classic monster films in HD from the studio that defined the Hollywood horror genre. So yeah, cool set for sure. I grew up on the Universal horror films. I've seen a bunch of them. Don't remember which ones I have seen. I know I've watched stuff like Ghost of Frankenstein and Frankenstein a lot as a kid. But I bet there's some in here that I haven't seen. Probably a lot, to be honest. So yeah, all 30 of these films are going to be watching that Universal's and a bunch others. It's a big list. I have like 108 movies I might not watch. We're going through even some of the Paramount ones that the Universal picked up in 1958 we're thinking about doing. So yeah, anyways, that should be fun. We're not going to do them all in order. We'll do them when we can. So anyways, that is a Universal horror box set. Back to the video. Okay guys, thank you very much for watching. And as always, have a good one. Yeah.